So soon, well, a year to 2 years, I figured out a combination. Something that would kill the eggs, something that would kill most of the larvae, and something that would kill the adults. And then I had my chance to try it, and it was totally non-invasive. The patient was only too eager. And to my surprise, that next visit that these people had, all three of them, the doctor said that their treatment had worked. I thought, that's fine, it's just that it hadn't worked for years before. And so I didn't lose my idea that maybe it was my treatment that worked. So I thought the way to get after that was to give it again. So at the next incident, which was coming along, and of course I didn't know that you had to keep on. I thought the way most everybody does, that once you've killed a parasite, you've gone through the parasite killing program, that's the end of it. That was my mindset too at that time. But it isn't. You have that parasite for a reason, and that kind of information has only come along in the later years, and that's why you have a handout called pathogens and the things they need, parasites and the things they need, parasite essential foods, for instance. In other words, parasites are living in you because you feed them. Of course, we wouldn't live where we weren't being fed either. But you see, when you're in academia or off in some ideology, or often in theories, you lose the logic, the real logic, very often. Of course, you think you're being very scientific, but but actually you're caught up in the theories of the day, and you go by that. So I thought that parasites are in you because they're just eating your flesh and blood. But that's not so. You eat them because they need a particular food and you're giving it to them. And it took me about 10 years to figure out what the food was for Phaseolopsis fusci, the parasite that causes cancer. And it is the onion family. The onion family produces chemicals called alleles, A-L-L-Y-L. That's what makes your eyes burn and water. And there are about 300 allele compounds in onions. And onions are related to garlic, and there are even more than that in allele compounds in garlic. Now, here's another new principle. Nothing is all bad or all good, because they weren't put here for us to eat or not to eat. We're supposed to use intelligence to decide what to eat. And onions make our eyes sting and so on and so forth. We're not supposed to eat a whole lot of raw onions. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't ever eat any. You have to use common sense. Same goes with garlic. It shouldn't be a daily food. Even though it cures colds or whatever good thing it does. We have to use balance from the time we were very young, but of course we get sick as we get older, and all of us, we're all sick. And then we try to heal ourselves. And the search is on for the kind of things I'm talking about. You need to find what they are using this device. Now, you can get this device, and I'll talk more about it tomorrow, so that you can figure out, I know you have pressing problems in different areas, but you can figure out what the problem is, the cause of it, and therefore the solution. And I'm going to start with the horse because that will address everybody's interests, and everybody's. Going to the last page of your handout. It's called The Real Carcinogen. And although you have IARC with its thousands of carcinogens and near carcinogens, not one of them is the real one. That doesn't mean it doesn't contribute. It does. Eating estrogen replacements, eating benzene, there are 1,000 contributors, but they are not the cause. Now, I came across the cause only 2 years ago. All that time, I had been getting a little closer because by around 1999, I had found that the cause was in the water that cancer patients are drinking, that is coming from their kitchen faucet. Now that took about 10 years because I had been testing their air, their food, their water in many respects. All kinds of metals, all kinds of solvents, all kinds of miscellaneous items that you could possibly think of. I was testing them on and keeping the records because I knew there had to be a cause. And eventually, it just took that long for that kind of a study to lead to the water. The food might be a contributor, other things might be contributors, but my criterion was again the same as before. If I take it away, the condition improves. If I give it back, the condition gets worse. Then I do it again and again, about 3 cycles. And that is how I can decide on cause and effect, instead of the academic clinical way, which is a generalization from principles and theories, such as IARC uses. So when I had found that it was in the water, that was a very big event. It took a few more years to figure out that it was the disinfectant in the water, not the rest of the water. The water has a lot of toxins in it, almost innumerable. So it was fortunate that it got conveniently wrapped up in the chlorine disinfectant that is used. And then I used the criterion of removal and putting it back again to see if that was it. And it wasn't. It's not the chlorine in the chlorine disinfectant that is the cause. It's something else in the chlorine disinfectant, because that in itself is a very complex thing. And on the back page, you'll see what the real carcinogen is that causes cancer. I said it was not the chlorine, and it's not the heavy metals, most of them. About 2 years ago, I found it was polonium. That is at one end of this little string of 4. So here again, a concept was shattered. We all, including me, thought that the cause was going to be one thing. And so we're searching for one thing. And that's why this sometimes runs me into years. I was searching for polonium and didn't find it. I couldn't find it because I was just searching for polonium, not this whole polonium complex. Unless, for my device, I have to have the item for which I'm searching as a pattern, because I'm looking for a frequency pattern. I have to have the item that I'm searching for. And it took me that long to think of this possibility. So now let's follow the horse and see what you actually find if you are going to be searching an animal, or whatever. We're all animals. We belong to mammalian species, and so let's get started. I can't see that from here, but I think you can. And I think I know what's on it. First of all, this is a real horse. And horses, along with dogs and cats, are getting a great deal of cancer. I don't know if you had noticed that, but it is certainly not normal. And you have to agree that if a person has several animals and more than one is getting cancer, that you have a situation for them that is causing it. What I do is I study saliva because it's just as useful and even more so than blood. And saliva is very easy to get. And in this case, you might read a little paragraph this was part of my response to the person who sent the horse information. I frequently get faxes asking for help with their animals. And it's so easy to cure an animal. It would be just, I can hardly stand not to help them, so, because it's so very easy. So I was telling her, I don't know if that comes through the first couple of paragraphs, that I got the saliva sample, but it had dried up, and there was hardly any of it left. It came in a syringe, prepared by the vet. This actually was a veterinary establishment. And I first of all wanted to see if I had any bit of the saliva left there since it had dried. And so I first of all checked to see if the saliva had any evidence of lymph in it. We all have lymph, every living thing, and I needed to see evidence that I wasn't dealing with a dried up sample of nothing. So I looked for lymph, and what is the other thing?
White blood cells. WBC.
White blood cells. Yes, white blood cells. Maybe somebody can help me read that.